Can we find a shooting location for this classic Bob Dylan album? I'm New York City musician E. James Smith, and I'm here in Greenwich Village with my good friend, actress Audrey Kovar. We're here in search of the shooting location for the classic Bob Dylan album, The Freewheelin Bob Dylan. Do you think we can find it?
I don't know, let's see. It's the perfect weather for it.
Yeah, it's cold like that day. Let's check it out. We're out of the cold back here in Studio 6. So how did Bob Dylan's second album get its name, The Freewheelin Bob Dylan? Again, the title has no clear origin story. According to bobdylan.org UK, it was originally rejected as the title for Dylan's first album by Columbia Records. And, according to Wikipedia, the working title of his second album was Bob Dylan's Blues, one of the songs recorded for the album. So, did Bob Dylan name it himself? In those days, the record company had total control over the artist, and Bob Dylan, being a new artist, would not have had the clout he later would. Did Bob suggest freewheeling for his debut album to have it rejected and reduced to the simple eponymous Bob Dylan? Did he later take revenge by himself rejecting the Bob Dylan's Blues title and then insisting on reviving freewheeling? One thing's for sure, we don't know, and Bob will never say. This was Bob Dylan's second album, and it was far from a sophomore slump. It was immediately successful and began to earn Dylan his first serious money. It included instant masterpieces, Blowin' in the Wind, Masters of War, Girl from the North Country, A Hard Rains Are Gonna Fall, and Don't Think Twice, It's All Right. The songs on Freewheelin' were the first Bob Dylan songs the Beatles ever heard. It was early 1964 when they were performing in Paris, and they couldn't stop playing the album over and over again. They were obsessed. Only a few months later, they would have their famous first meeting at the Delmonico Hotel in New York City. So the cover. The photo was shot in February 1963 by official Columbia Records photographer Don Hunstein, who had also shot the cover of Bob's first album, Bob Dylan. Don didn't want to shoot another portrait shot in his studio, so he went to Bob Dylan's apartment on West 4th Street in New York's Greenwich Village and did a full photo session inside the tiny apartment. After a while, he suggested that Bob and his girlfriend Suze Rotolo go outside to shoot some exteriors. Now, I don't know about you, but I have never really known how to pronounce her name. I have heard every possible iteration. Suze Rotolo, Suze Rotolo. I really don't know. So I did what everyone does these days, and I asked AI. AI cited her New York Times obituary, where it was stated that she pronounced it Suze Rotolo. Anyway, for the sake of fairness, we will use every possible pronunciation in this video. Okay, now that we've addressed that, let's go back to the village. Here we are in front of Bob Dylan's first apartment in the village on West 4th Street. Earlier in the day, he had done a photo session with photographer Don Hunstein, along with his girlfriend, Suze Rotolo. After a few hours of shooting in the apartment, they decided to step outside and shoot some exteriors. So again, like Blonde on Blonde, it was another freezing cold day, but Bob decided to look cool and wear a thin suede jacket.
Suze was a bit more practical and chose a long winter coat that was a bit more weather appropriate.
Jones Street is a tiny street that stretches for 1 block from West 4th Street to Bleecker Street. That day, Don Hunstein asked Bob and Suze to walk down the street away from the camera and turn around and walk toward the camera. He only needed 1 roll of color film as the day grew dark, but it was all that was needed for this iconic shot. So Audrey, should we walk down the street and recreate this album cover?
Sounds good, Jimmy. Let's do it.
All right. So, other than the fact that a few buildings have been replaced and the cars are newer, we have found the location and successfully reshot the cover of the Freewheelin Bob Dylan. Thank you for joining me out here in the cold, Audrey. Have you had a good time recreating the album cover?
I did. It was surprisingly satisfying.
Excellent. Well, thank you again for watching. And please watch my other videos, including one on the cover of the Blonde on Blonde album by Bob Dylan, and a music video with Spanish Harlem Incident, also by Bob Dylan, on my album, Don't Get Me Wrong. Well, that's all for today. Thank you, and see you next time.